Ford's wiper switch is part of the steering column. The only problem we have is Thor Motor Coach does not use it in the Axis Vegas. They use the aftermarket system. You have to use what they installed. So it's basically a Freightliner International wiper switch. And it's in a very bad location. You got to reach all the way over to your left and look down while driving to find it. I think that's a stupid location. So I'm going to show you how to relocate the wiper switch over to here to make it more accessible. You're driving along, there's the switch right there. Let's get started. The first thing is to pull the Thor wiper switch. Yeah, this switch has two tabs, one on the top and one on the bottom. You go behind it. It might have some glue back there too, but if you get them and you push them up, they will pop out. Just a tab on the top and the bottom. And the same thing goes for the dimmer switch. So now that that's out, it's a simple unplug. Unplug it. So basically I'm going to have to move this over to here. I should have enough wire. The easiest way I found to cut is a utility knife and a butane torch. I've already checked. There is nothing behind here, so I don't have to worry about cutting any wires or burning anything. I mark out where I need to cut it, heat up the blade, and just slowly do cuts with a real hot blade that will melt right through it. Just start pushing down, it'll slowly go down. And when it doesn't go down easy anymore, heat it back up. Let's see if I can. Pop it out. There's a little bit I gotta trim right there. Inside plastic. Just gonna go up. I'm gonna take another utility knife. Make sure I have a nice fresh blade in it. Now I'm just going to trim the excess plastic off. Now this should slide in pretty good. Then I'll move over the wire harness over to here. Now just plug the switch back in, snap it in, and that area is done. The switch has been relocated to a more accessible location. The washer switch used to be, I opened the hole a little bit bigger and transferred the dimmer switch over to there, then added a dual USB power outlet. In this part of the video, I'm going to show you what I did to get the Ford wiper switch to work in some function on my steering wheel. If you decide to do this modification, be aware there are risks involved, and I take no liability. Now here's the plus part of the video. You got the wiper controls on the steering column. The wiper switch does not function at all. You have to use what they installed, which is a aftermarket wiper system, basically a truck style, Freightliner International. I would love to be able to control my wipers with my steering wheel switch. I'm going to get at least the washer function to work on this switch, and also that means single tap will also give you a single swipe. I was also able to get this switch the function of being able to turn on and off the wipers, but with some limitations on its functions. This is how I did it. I removed the windshield wiper switch, like I showed in an earlier part of the video. Then I take off the steering column covers to remove the multifunction switch. I remove the lower steering column cover. There's 3 screws. I also had to remove the tilt lever handle for to unscrew it. Then the bottom cover will come right on off. Next is to remove the ignition switch, which I'm going to show you how right now. In order to remove the ignition switch, in the ignition switch housing, there's a hole underneath where the key is. Locate it and use a small screwdriver or a pick to fit the hole. Insert it into the hole and push up. Found the hole, put the key in, and turn, and you'll feel it go up. As soon as you get it to the run position, it will push up, and you can pull the ignition switch out. With the ignition switch out, you can pull the top cover right on off. Then I'll put the ignition switch in and turn it back to the off position. With the key still in the ignition switch set at the run position, I line it up and slide it back into the steering housing. I make sure that bottom pin's lined up with the slot down the bottom, slide the ignition in, now I can turn it back. and it will lock the ignition switch back in place. Now with the steering column covers removed, to remove the wiper switch, it's 2 screws. One on the top and one on the bottom. I've already taken them out. And 3 wire connectors. You take it out, disconnect the wire connectors. It's out. Just 1 screw there and 1 screw there. Now from looking at the wiring harness and the wiring diagram by Ford, I know this small connector is the connector that controls the wiper. Nothing else controls the wiper but this. I prefer not to cut this wiring harness. I will pick up another one from the junkyard to use in its place and just tuck this one away. With the Ford multifunction switch out and the Thor windshield washer control switch out, I do not want to mess up what came out of the vehicle. I want to be able to put these back and at least go back to the original stuff in case it doesn't work. I went to a local pull your own junkyard and was able to find a similar multifunction switch with the wiring harnesses for $15. This switch is a little bit different, but the only thing different about this switch are the stocks. Everything else is the same. All the controlling is the same. This one came out of a Lincoln Town Car. This came out of a E-Series. The steering wheels are different. This part, if you go to just this part right here, they're the exact same. The connectors are the same. The wiring color may be different, but the connectors are the same. So then I look at the back. Okay. I'm not going to need to do anything to these plugs at all. All I'm going to be using is this plug. Pull down on the tab, pull back, and it pulls out. And this plug will fit this plug perfectly. So when I plug this one in, I will take the original plug in the RV, unplug it, zip tie it, and leave it to the side because I'm going to be using the new plug because I do not want to cut the original. Now this is the switch that came out of the vehicle. I really do not want to take this apart and break it. So I purchased an extra exact identical switch. I also purchased 2 of a similar switch. I got 2 of this style. And the only difference with this and the one that came in the RV is you control the delay with the bottom one up and down. I plugged them both in the RV and they work perfectly. They can use the same plug, so I think they're interchangeable. So I decided I'm going to modify one of each, starting with the one out of the RV. Now I'm going to take it apart, and this is how I did it. I use my little pick. Now you peel down the tape a little bit. Now you want to be pushing upwards, and you pry these 2 clips on each side up. It will move up a little bit, then go to the back side, pry up, and it will slide out. And these are the 2 contact switches, and here's the circuit board. Now I know the washer's on the, this is the washer, and this is the on-off switch up top. So the bottom right here is the washer, so I'm going to flip it over. This down here is where the washer switch is. You have the 2 prongs that ride against this. Both zoom in. Comes up. You push it, it makes contact. These 2 have to make contact for the washer. Now if you look real close, you see SW1. And then you look at the little small one right here, and it goes up, and there's a hole right there to place a wire. So what I'm going to do is put a wire right here, solder it in, and another wire right here to solder it in. I want to try to get the on-off switch for the wipers to work too. So I know the on-off is also all the way up top. Slide in, makes contact with these 2 to turn the wipers on or off. These run off momentary switches. So basically you push it in, it makes contact and goes back. Going in, coming back up. This runs on a momentary switch. So that's good to know. So I know I want to put a wire here and put a wire here. Now I know by looking at the circuit board, I look on the back side and I can see that's not connected to this and that's not connected to this. I can see they're not connected to the back. If I turn it over, I can see they're connected to the dark. If you follow that dark line, it goes all the way over, and these two are connecting. Now, in order to make sure those two are on the same circuit, I'm going to do a tone test. The tone test will tell me if they're on the same circuit, if they're connect to the same thing. So when it makes a connection, I get a tone. So I'm going to touch this one right here and this one over here. They are sharing the same circuit. So that's the common, which is fine. That's good to know. Now I know that's common. So I can touch the big ones on both sides. So the odds are that's the ground wire, but I know it's common for this circuit board. So both those are common. So if I'm going to turn the wipers on and off also, I won't have to put a wire on SW2 because I already have a common wire on SW1. So, but what I will have to do is put a wire on that one right there. So I will put a wire on that one right there, and that will be to turn the wipers on and off. So I put a wire on SW1, and that will give me a common and a common since these are connected on the same circuit. Now I will hook a wire up to this right here, go here, and that's the hole. I will put a wire in there, and that will give me the on-off for the windshield washer. Then I'll come up here, I'll put a wire right here, so I'll be able to turn on and off the wipers from the multifunction switch. Now I'm going to take the other style apart. They come apart the same way, and see what the circuit board looks like on the inside. The circuit boards do look different, but when I flip them over, the contact area works exactly the same. The only difference is where you're going to solder the wires to the circuit board. It still has the holes to solder them on. Now let's do that. To make it easier to solder to the circuit board, I have some old capacitors I'm going to pull the pins out of and solder onto pieces of wire. Solder them together. Now I'm going to do the same thing to a piece of red and white wire also. Now with the wires ready, it's time to solder them into the circuit board. So I slide all three pins into the hole and take my soldering iron and solder the best I can. I got all three soldered in, and I snipped off the wires with my, just snipped them and took them right on off. And it's ready to do the next part on the other side by putting heat shrink tubing and gluing it in place with some B7000 glue. This is the multifunction switch that came out of the RV. It has O for off, then you push it in and that makes contact for your windshield washer wipers. It would be just like pushing in the washers on the switch. Hit it with this, you tap it once, it will give you the one swipe feature also. And so you don't have to turn on the windshield wipers. It's just every now and then you need a little swipe, just tap it and it'll give you a swipe. This is the only momentary switch. This, you push it in, as soon as you let go, it's no longer making connection. And that's how all the switches work on the one they have in it. So the problem is, when you turn these are all constant switches. So in order for the wiper to be able to turn on and off with the multifunction switch, I wanted to make it a momentary contact somewhere in the middle from off to all the way on without making a constant contact. I was able to get a Ford service wiring diagram manual. This is a 2017, but it should be the same wiring from a 2005 to a 2021. They use the same multifunction switch, so the only difference might be the color of the wires. This is the wiring diagram for the multifunction switch wiper washer control for a strip chassis. Why can't I just hook this straight up to the windshield washer motor that's in there right now? Well, I'm going to take a look at the cutaway chassis. And here's the cutaway chassis diagram. The Ford system multifunction switch is wired directly to the wiper motor that controls everything. But the wiper motor on a Ford one has the control module built into it. With the Thor system they put in, with the aftermarket system Thor put in, that's all built into this. That's why you cannot connect this straight to the wiper motor, because the aftermarket wiper motor does not have the control module in it. Now looking at the multifunction switch wiring, I can see right here, it tells me what connector it takes. It takes a C202C connector. So I'll be looking that up in a second. Now I'm looking at the schematics, and it's telling me the number 5 wire is the common for all of them. That's what's going to trigger this. Whenever you turn this, it's just going to make contact to the other wires and tell which ones to turn on. Like number 5 will make a contact to number 2 for the windshield, for the front washers. So the front washer is number 2 to number 5. The multifunction switch is a 6-wire system but has 8 positions. This will show me which position triggers what wires. The number 2 wire is the trigger for the washer by this diagram. And it's a gray with brown stripe. Now I need to figure out a way to turn the wipers on and off with the multifunction switch. So I know 5 is going to be common, so I can't use the 5 number wire on the wiring harness. 2 is for windshield washer, so I cannot use the 5 or 2. Now, also on the multifunction switch, I cannot use a wire that has a constant connection in position number 8 all the way on the multifunction switch. I need to find one that has a connection in the middle somewhere to give me a momentary connection. So I take a look and I see wire number 4, well, that has a contact at number 8, the last position of the switch. So that will not work. Wire number 1 also has a contact to number 8. So that one will not work. Wire number 3 only has a contact in the middle of the multifunction switch at position 3, 4, and 5 of intermediate. Well, that will give me a momentary contact when I turn the switch all the way. So that will work. And number 6, that's giving me a contact on, again, it's a number 8. So that in order to turn the wipers on and off with the multifunction switch, I'm going to have to use the number 3 wire, which is a VTW8. Double check to make sure. How do I know which wiper connector works on the multifunction switch? Well, I know it's a 6-wire by this, but I can go to the back of the Ford schematic book. And I know it's a C202. There we go. There's C. And there is... And here's the multifunction switch, C202C, the connector I told you in the illustration. And now here it's going to also tell you what the wiper's number do. The number 1 wire, well, it goes by pins. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, the number 5 wire is the common wire. That's going to be the common. The number 2 wire is for washer. So the 2 wires in and the 2 wires, these 2 wires will work the washers when connected. Now I looked at number 3. Number 3 will be the wire we're using to turn on and off that. And that says front wiper intermediate B level. We're just using it to turn the wipers on and off. We're still using the original switch to control, to go to fast, slow, and control the intermediate delay. So we got number 6, not going to be used. Number 5 is common. Number 4 is not going to be used. Number 3 is going to be used to turn the wipers on and off. And number 2 is for the washer. So now that I know all the schematics to do this, I can put this together. So I know this is common. So I went through the schematics and found the second one on the other end is for the washer, which is the number 2 wire on the schematic. 2 and 2, the 2 out, 2 from the inside are for washer. I'll take the wire that's in the 3rd position to turn the wipers on and off and bring that up. Now you may notice these are different colors than what it's in the RV because this is out of a town car. Don't worry about the color, just worry about the position number. This is how on the multifunction switch be able to turn on and off the wipers. So what I said to do, if you turn it slowly, don't matter where, if you turn it slowly, this will make a momentary connection. Right here, on these 2, will make a momentary connection and turn the wipers on. And if you want to turn them off, just turn it slowly and it will make a momentary connection and turn the wipers off. Now if you turn it fast, it might not, it'll be too fast for it to recognize, so you would have to turn the knob slowly. So, and we're going to give this a test now because I'm going to hook these up to the tone, because black and yellow is the common. So I'm just going to wrap that right around the black of my multi-tester. And this one's going to be to turn the wipers on and off. I'm going to wrap it around. One connected to the red and one connected to the black. I'm going to plug it in to the multifunction switch. Now the multifunction switch is off, so when I turn it slowly, I should get a beep, then it turn off. And that just turned the wipers on. I turn it slowly, I get a beep, it turns off. That just turned the wipers off. If I turn it fast, you don't hear the beep, it didn't make contact. That's why you have to turn it slow. On, off. Now, we're going to check this purple wire, or blue or whatever you want to call it. So I connect it to that. Now that should trigger whenever I push the wiper in for windshield washer. Oh, I'm washing the windshield. I just want one swipe. Boom, one swipe. So I know the wiring is ready for this. Now all I have to do now is put the aftermarket switches together and test them. Then put some end connectors on. Okay, now let's put the wiper switch controller back together. Grab all the pieces. Already got the notch cut out in the back for the wires to go pass through. This is finished. The wires have been heat shrinked, glued to the circuit board, and then I put another piece of heat shrink right here to hold it all together. It's not going anywhere. Now to put this together, you know that the wiper washer is on the opposite side of this, so look for which says washer. So the washer will go to here. Slide the washer in. Make sure you get it where it pushes. These bend, just bend them back straight. Similar to what they were, took them out. Now with those on, those sticking right there, take the switch, slide it down, and boom, inside. Now it is against those, what it rides on. Now holding it down like this, I'm going to line up the switch and slide it back together. This is the newer style switch where the delay would be from here. But now I want to test this switch and make sure these wires are functioning the way I wanted them to. So the black wire is the common wire. Strip a little bit off of that. This is the wire to turn on and off the wipers. Just sort of a little bit stripped on that. And this is the wire to activate the washer and the one touch swipe. I bring over my tester. I'm going to set my tester to tone. So basically whenever I get a contact, I will get a tone. Now I'm going to take my common wire, which is the black wire, and wrap it around this one and just leave it. Now my red one, I'm going to put an alligator clip on it with a wire. Now when they touch, you get a tone. So the first thing I'm going to try is a windshield washer to make sure it's getting a tone when these are contacted. So I hit the washer, got a tone. So that is making contact to the circuit board to tell it to jump. Now I'm going to check to see if I have a contact, proper contact, to activate the wipers on and off. And there it is. This switch is ready to be installed with the junkyard used wiring harness to the multifunction switch in the steering column. The connector I decided to use. So I take it apart, pops apart. This side will attach to the wiper switch. So I take the black wire, the common wire, and there's a black ring. I'm going to plug that into that, give it a good push in, and it will lock in. I'm going to take the red windshield washer wire, push it in the other side, and that will be locked in. Now, for this one, I will take the used multifunction switch wiring harness and plug the number 5 wire into here and plug the number 2 wire into here. And that way, when I connect them together, they will be connected to the multifunction switch when I plug it into it. For this side, I will use the identical connector. I will just use one side, then plug the number 3 wire into the corresponding side. That way it gives me a connection to turn on and off. I could have just used spade terminals, but I decided, so I just used orange connectors since I had them, but I'd rather have used these. Basically put a pin on each wire. You can put all 3 wires on in this and put all 3 wires from the multifunction used harness on this side, and you just have to plug them together. But I didn't get these until after I put mine in, so maybe later on I'll replace those orange connectors with one of these automotive style connectors. Now let's install it in the RV. I run the used wiring harness from the opening of the wiper motor switch of Thor and ran it around to the steering column. I just won't plug this one in. I'll plug the one, the red switch into the multifunction switch. I slide the wires into the hole and snap the wiper motor module switch into the dash. And there you go. Now the windshield wiper switch is right there. Now I'm going to install the multifunction switch back. Okay, to put it in, all you do is plug the wires back in. I'm tucking the one that's not being used down. And there's 2 screws. One there, one down in here, and it's in. Let's give it a test. I just make sure the wipers are working, then I put it back together. I remove the ignition switch, put the covers back on, put the ignition switch back in, and it's all done. Okay, with everything buttoned up, the wiper control switch has been remounted to this location to give you better access and having to reach all the way down here and try to find it. It has been modified with 3 wires coming out to attach to the multifunction switch wiper control area to give me wiper control functions like a wired remote to this module switch. And now we're going to see how it works. Now the switch still works as usual. You press the washer button and hold it. You have washers. A few more swipes after you're done and turns off itself. If you just have a little missing, you just need a single wipe, just tap it. You get 1 wipe. To turn the wipers on, just press the button and they turn on. You need them to go faster. Press up, and it will speed up. Press down, it will go back down to slow. Press down, it will go to a delay. And if you want a longer delay, press down again. Now I'll go to a longer delay. If you want it off, just press the button and it will turn off. Okay, the switch is working. Let's see how the multifunction switch is working. If you want to turn the wipers on and off with the multifunction switch, you want to turn it at a normal speed and it will turn on. Turn it off at a normal speed, it will turn off. What it's doing is making a momentary contact between these two delay modes. You press the windshield washer wiper, you hold it in, your windshield washers come on. You let go, it will squirt out a little bit more, than give it a couple more swipes to make sure it got all the fluid off, and turns itself off. You're driving along and you're starting to get misty rain, but you don't need a wiper on, you just need a single swipe. Just push it in one time and it will give you a single swipe. So you don't have to put on any wipers. Whenever you need a swipe, just hit it once and you'll get a swipe. Now if you turn it on and it's wiping. Now I will still have to use the original wiper switch to control the speed to go to fast, back down to slow, or to control the intermediate. That's what I meant by a certain extent. Now, let's say I turn the wipers on and they're going, and now I go to turn them off and I turn the switch real fast. Well, it didn't make connections, but all I have to do is touch the original off button and it will turn off.